body, soul, and spirit. There is no separation between them. The human being is not a sum of separate parts. There are not three different natures, therefore, body, soul, and spirit are not three separate parts, but they are three dimensions of the same person. There is no dualism. Dualism is believing that there are two separate parts, or even contrary, while duality is about two different characters or phenomena but in the same person. Thus, Christians do not say, "I am not the body." We not deny the body, no, in the correct way and in its proper measure we do not see evil in either the carnal or in the world. We need to discern, and it is very clearly specified to us that it is not lawful to despise the body life, but on the contrary, we have to consider the body good and worthy of honor. All you know when St. Paul told us that the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. The body is conceived in our mother's womb. The soul is directly created by God and not by our parents. In the reproduction, we do not transmit the soul to our sons. But every time a human is born, there is a creative act of God. So, the parents generate the body, but at that same moment forming an embryo, there it's a soul. God has voluntarily created each of us. In the fact a mother can look her newborn and ask, "Is he my son? Or is a son of God?" Both are true. God is our Father too. Just because it's beauty, since honestly, I don't know its scientific implications, I want to remember now that when the sperm enters in the egg there is a fireworks, there is an explosion of billions of sparks of zinc atoms. And when they come together in small molecules they emit a fluorescent light that although our parents are the parents of our body and God is the creator of our soul. Body and soul form a single being. The unity of soul and body is so profound that one has to consider the soul to be the form of the body, i.e., it is because of its spiritual soul that the body made of matter becomes a living, human body. Spirit and matter, in man, are not two natures united, but rather their union forms a single nature. Now, it cannot be denied that a duality exists. Or else, let's look at the fact that when we die the soul it separates from the body. So, duality yes, dualism no, and it is not the same. There is no dualism. Body and soul are not different things, but as I said, different dimensions of the same person. Duality means that the human person is, at the same time, a corporal and spiritual being. Yes, but both are deeply integrated into that human nature to the point that it can be said that man is like an embodied soul and an in-soul body, a concrete individual composed of soul and body. But within that duality we can carefully observe the soul and say, the soul is our life itself. It is our most intimate being, it is the very essence of us. That is why when our body remains dead here, the soul continues to subsist, it lives, and the entire being is in it. When the soul is separated from the body, even when the body is not there, the person remains intact in terms of his faculties in the soul. But what is the difference between the soul and the spirit? They are the same? And to answer this, we'll first have to put aside this first question and look at ourselves. At our bodies, we are made of flesh and blood. We are born and die as living beings. But what is the relationship between our body and our soul? We've said that the body and soul are so deeply integrated that humankind is like an ensouled body or an embodied soul. And now we're going to explain this very clearly by comparing the soul as understood by Christianity and the Buddhist explanation of the soul, all using the example of a coin. This can be explained very simply with a single coin. If you asked a Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, he would answer you that the human being is two different coins, body and soul. These two coins are dualism, but they often present opposition and even confrontation between two substances. But Aristotle would not be agreed with Buddha. He would reply with his rational anthropology that tells us that body and soul, they are not two different coins, but rather they are two sides of the same coin. There are two sides, yes, but only one coin, one substance. But what's about this? Alberto, I haven't understood a damn thing about what you are telling me. Don't worry, at the first I didn't understand a damn thing either, so I'm going to explain it in a very simple way and point by point what exactly is our reality of body and soul. Now you will understand it easy, and for that we need to go into metaphysics. Let's go back to the conception. The soul is the first act of a body that has potential life. How we can understand this? Keep calm, I'll explain very simple with the example of a chocolate powder. But let's go step by step. Let's review. The soul is the first act. What does the first act mean? Of a body that has potential life. What does it mean that it has potential life? Think about what you are yourself now. Now think about your potential, in what you can be potentially become. What you are now, in this exact moment, this is the act. And in what you can potentially become is potency. Do I explain? The act and the potency are two necessary keys terms to help us in the understanding about what's happening around us. In the fact it has a deep meaning in a world of constant changes. A long time ago it was thought that the change. Watch now the snow melting. Like I say it, everything is constantly changing and nothing now what is be in the past. Second per second everything mutates and everything it's changing, right? Well, then it was said that the change had to be no possible, because they understand in a kind of change. Do you have tried drinking water from an empty glass, where the change think it arises from nothing, that is, the being would emerge from the non-being. It is would emerge from it is not. And here comes the argue. It is impossible for something to come from the nothing, because nothing comes out of nothing. Think about of a seed. The seed now it is a seed, but it has the potential to become a tree, and thus, it is explained that change does not come from nothing, because, as we have said, nothing can come from the nothing. Potency it is like scroding a cat, it is, and at the same time it is not. It is a possibility, because it is not, but at the same time potentiality of what it could become is already on that thing. What you could become in the future, your potential, is already there in you. Another thing it is if going to happen or not. And another good example is the chocolate powder, because the cocoa inside it can turn into a chocolate milkshake, but also if I dropped it and go down to the floor then will never be one. Therefore, chocolate powder it is potentially a chocolate shake, but at the same time it is not. Chocolate, the act, milkshake the potency, seed equal act, tree equal potency. Do you understand it? Then let's go back to the child conception. As we have said, something alive cannot not have a soul. Therefore, the soul is there from the very first small moment in which there is life. And in this very first small instant of the body, it's where on that first time that body is a soul in act. Is a soul in act and potentially can develop and be alive. He or she have the potential to grow up as a baby and born outside of the womb of his mother. Okay, we go and see again the act and the potency. What you currently are now and what you can be potentially become. And now we can understand more clear that the body and soul are substance, right? So now comes the question, and what is a substance? So now let's go back to the example of the coin. And to simplify it, let's assume that this coin is made only of silver. Okay, we can say that the material of the coin is silver, but the question is, at what point is that same amount of silver become a coin? Is there a difference between silver and the coin? Let me give you other examples. At what point does ceramics become a vase? And can we differentiate between the vase and the ceramic? At what moment does the stone become a statue? And can we differentiate between the statue and the stone? Look at a candle. It is made of wax. The material of a candle is wax. But what differentiates a ball of wax from a candle? At what point is the wax a candle? And can we differentiate between a candle and its wax? Or are they the same thing? Now let's look at living beings, plants, animals, and humans. If we now look at biology, we can affirm that are the cells the material of which living beings are made. Someone could say the atoms, of course, but by that same logic we can also say that a candle is made of atoms. But if we don't go so deep and focus only on the materials, just as we can say that a candle is made of wax, we can also say that the material from which living beings we are made are the cells. More specifically, we can say that a human body simply have so many trillion of cells, and although all of them together can form our human body, and as we just said, the life of none of these tiny and simple living beings is our life. That is, within us the cells are born, reproduce and die, without that means that we die with any of them. True? So the traditions that attribute the appearance of our soul to a specific cell, for example, there are traditions other than ours that say that the soul is in the sperm, which are simply erroneous statements. And sure, that this video honestly it's not trying to be biology class, but a sperm, as well as the egg, actually are cells generated by other living cells in processes that occur inside our body, such as spermatogenesis in the case of sperm, where the sperm divided from another cell, just as in its own way the female egg also had its own process with oogenesis. Therefore, to affirm that our soul was in the sperm is ridiculous, since it would be to affirm that we are the life of that sperm, that we were conceived in spermatogenesis and that we were initially born from a spermatid and not from our mother's womb. Okay, and then what? Well then, we only have to observe our world and from logic say the following statement. There are beings that are unicellular, whose life does not depend on many cells, but rather they are very simple tiny beings whose life is their own body. I insist that this is not a biology class, but that we address it only superficially so that the basics of this issue can be understood. And on the other hand, we also exist as complex beings who are multicellular beings. plants, animals, insects, and us the human beings. And in the same way as a unicellular being, it is a living cell that itself is born and dies as a single living being. Therefore, it is very simple to draw up some questions. But, although here we are not going to delve into unicellular beings, but on the contrary, we will now focus on ourselves, the multicellular beings. Which, as I say, are not, biologically speaking, a single giant being. Well, in a sense we are, sure, but not in the sense as if they are the single-celled beings of which we are made up. That is, our life is not framed in the birth and death of a single cell in question. But on the contrary, our bodies, our life, our birth and death, physically speaking, come from bodies literally made up of trillions of other living beings which within their own existence are also born, reproduce, and die, the cells, which, as I have said, constitute the material of which we, multicellular beings, are made, in the same way that we can affirm that a ceramic vase is made of ceramic. We can also affirm that you are made of cells, trillions of cells. So our life, our soul, and our death are not linked, in particular, to the birth, life and death of any of these billions of cells. That is, our life is not directly the life of any of these cells. But at the same time all these living beings can form another multicellular life that is us. And there was a moment where a group or even a single cell that somehow they constituted in our gestation a new complex multicellular being within which they exist and of which they are part. And it is at this indeterminate moment where we can say that we appeared. And remember, our body is created by our parents at the conception, but every time when we reproduce actually we do not transmit the soul to a child. But on the other hand this soul is directly created by God. Therefore, as we have said, the parents generate the body, but at the same time God voluntarily, because he didn't have to, but at the same time he wanted to create each one of us. So we are not an accident, but someone that our God himself has wanted to exist just as we are within all of his immense creation. So, God is also our Father. But, here the question is, when is actually it is happening that non-defined moment where we can already be considered that we are ourselves, that we have been created here, that actually we can say that now we exist here inside this creation of the Lord? Well, okay, as I have also said, here neither science, nor philosophy, and nor even the church has been managed to agree to give a consensual and a decisive answer on this question. But, on the contrary, throughout the centuries, there has been a lot of debate, speculation, approaches, suggestions, and for sure ethical formulations, and yens, and if you are interested about that, there is a lot written on the internet about this topic, with which you can read. Yes, for sure, but here I'm not really going to delve into this now. No, but, actually, here about what I'm going to speak is of our soul. But here, now, I need to precise that actually there is no a sufficient consensus to determine an exact and accurate moment in which, in this video, I can honestly say for example, okay, this event actually happens here or here. No, actually not. This is now not possible to said really accurate. More than say that there is an indeterminate moment when without a doubt, as the multicellular living beings, within this material creation of our Lord, we become from not be to be. That is, there is an indeterminate precise moment where inside our mother we are created in body and soul. But actually, here as I said, honestly I can't tell when, and in the fact actually this video it is not to make a deep dive on these aspects. Then, 1. The body is created by the parents, but the soul is created by God. And 2. If we ask ourselves what the material of our body is, something that, as you will now see, it is important. So, the answer is, our body material are the cells. And so, we've just speak it about the body, but here's the question, if there are literally billions of living beings that are born, reproduce, and die, being replaced by others within our own being, then what is it that makes us, or what are those that survive the constant change of our organism? Well, then let's replace cells with silver and from there ask to ourselves, what is the difference between coins and their silver? Okay, the being. And here I'm not just referring to living beings, but to what it is substantially something. The being, for example, it can be a chair, a planet, or a squirrel. The being is that which can exist on its own. What is the substance of something? What are we ourselves in substance? Then here being is what we call substance. That's why when we say that a change is substantial, it means that what changes there is the substance. A seed becomes a tree, the substance has changed to be something else. And here we have to ask ourselves, in substantial change, when the substance or the being becomes something new, what has been transformed and is still there? I mean, the seed becomes a tree, okay, it's the same being. But then what has experimented the change and is still there in the tree? What it is, it cannot come from what it is not. and therefore, they have the deduction that then the change could not be possible. But here the fact, change is there. We can't not deny the change, because if you look around you don't need to be very clever to see that actually everything it is constantly changing. Look at this video, it is running and no longer playing the previous minutes that you see it before, and it not has the same quantity of views that it has before you decide to see it and start watching it. And maybe if you are drinking something, now the glass is no longer as same full than minutes ago when you start drinking. So, the change is undeniable, but actually, at the same time the affirmation that anything comes from the nothing, it's not wrong. Because I repeat, nothing comes out of nothing. So, the affirmation that change is impossible, it is wrong. But the second affirmation, that from nothing, nothing arises, it is correct. So how do we explain then the change? And this is where we return to finally understand really well what a soul is from hylomorphism. Hyl means matter, morphic means form. Hylomorphic equal to matter and form, or form and matter. And now we ask ourselves, what is form and what is matter? The form is not the physical form, it is not the shape, for example, it is round, it is big or it is small. No, the form is what makes a thing what it is. When we talk about the form we say, it's a ball, it's a building, it's an ant. The essence of that things. The essence, I think it is the key word. The essence of something is it's the form because the it makes that thing what it is and not something different. On the other side, matter is what a thing is made of. Let's say there are 3 vases. If we look at the matter, we will ask ourselves, what are they made of? And we can say that the first one is ceramic and round, the second is ceramic and tall, and the third is ceramic and is very heavy. Now, if we ask ourselves what the form of the vases is, we will say that the first is a vase, the second is a vase, and the third is a vase. Do you see it? The stone is the matter. Being a statue is it's the form. A statue can have many different silhouettes, but all of them universally are statues. Here is the question, are a candle and its wax just one thing? Wax, stone, and ceramic are our body. The matter, being a candle, being a statue, or being a vase is our form. Very important, do not think about the form as what we commonly associate with the word form, like silhouette. No. Here the form meaning is our essence, what makes a thing what it is. It is a candle, it is a statue, it is a vase. In the same way the body and the soul are only one substance. This substance is the coin. The matter here is our body, and the form, our essence, is the soul. Now, soul and body, contrary to what Buddha or Plato would say, Aristotle would respond that they are not 2 coins, but rather they are 2 dimensions or 2 sides of a single coin. And this is how we can finally understand that we can say that a person is like an ensouled body and an incarnated soul. Okay. There are 2 extremes. At one extreme are the materialists who don't believe in the soul. And they say we are just a body, like the atheists, and they are monists. A single substance, or a single coin, as in the example. And at the other extreme are the dualists who say we are a body and a soul, but that this body and this soul are 2 different substances. In other words, they are 2 different coins, like the Buddhists, but extremes are never good, and perfection is found in balance. Christianity is obviously not monistic, because we don't believe that we exist only in one body. We also understand that there is a soul. But Christians don't believe in duality, because we don't believe that body and soul are 2 different substances. We Christians believe in dualism, which, as we've said, is not the same as duality. Duality, no. Dualism, yes. We believe we are one coin, yes, but that this coin has 2 sides. The body and the soul. That is, matter, the material from which we are made. Our body, just as a vase is made of clay or a statue is made of stone. And form, what we are, and that is why we explain that the soul is the form of the body. The form is not the physical form, it is not the shape, for example, it is round, it is big or it is small. No, the form is what makes a thing what it is. When we talk about the form we say, it's a ball, it's a building, it's an ant. The essence of that things. The essence, I think it is the key word. The essence of something is it's the form because the it makes that thing what it is and not something different. Remember, being a candle, being a statue, being a vase is what we call form. Being. While wax, stone, and ceramic are matter. In the same way, our form is the soul, and our matter is the body. Form and matter are 2 sides of the same coin, but the coin is one, but with 2 distinct dimensions. This is the explanation of the Christian soul, and the soul of Saint Teresa of Jesus when she wrote The Interior Castle. You can watch the full video Metaphysics of the Soul on the channel or view it divided into the 3 chapters that make up the series. What is the soul? What is the difference between soul and spirit? etymology of the soul. And remember, all these videos are in both Spanish and English. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe.